Hi, everybody. It's Craig from Doc Sports. And yes, we are back with March Madness betting picks. It's Thursday, the 13th of March. Believe it or not, I almost said February. And we are a week from today is the start of real madness. But we're in the madness here with conference basketball tournaments. I'm going to get the business out of the way. Make sure you go and get the free $60 new customers. This is where our top plays are. So go over here, docsports.com/free60. Get $60 for free. And that's all new customers. Of course, everybody else, just go to the grid. It's $30 per day per sport or $99 per week per sport. So either one of the experts here. We have 8-unit game of the year. We should call him 8-unit Griffin Murphy here in the NBA tonight. So I know what the play is, and I like it too. So hopefully you get it home. Robert, any top plays for you tonight?
I have a 7-unit college basketball play going around 9 o'clock.
Nice. It's not in the same game I have. I have a 7-unit, but I think it's a different game, right?
It is a different game.
Boys,
there you go.
However, your play is the same as Strike Point Sports 8-unit college basketball game of the year. So it's either going to be a really, really good night with that game or a really, really bad night with that game.
Let's hope it's good
today, boys.
And Nick, what do you have? Any top plays tonight?
No top plays tonight. We're coming back, though. Good day on the ice, NHL. We got a 4-unit play and the NBA as well. But tomorrow I will have a top play in college basketball. So looking to bounce back from I believe it was on Monday with that awful Utah game. So tomorrow we will bounce back and have a good day on the hardwood floor in college basketball, Craig.
Yeah, Utah made me sweat last night with the 6-unit play. But they got it done. But it was like, man, come on. Every time they go up one, they let them score. And they score again. I'm like, man, I hate those NHL games at the end. They pull the goalie. Anyway, don't forget, like and subscribe. And don't forget, if you haven't done so, check out the Premium Plus. It's a great way to sample us out. It's $49.99 for a month. That will include Indian Cowboys, 3 to 6 leans he has every day, and 3 video picks every day in one video. So it's about a minute to minute and a half video. So make sure you get in on it. Click the link in the description to get in. If you go directly to your phone, sometimes it's more if you're buying through an app store. So make sure you get that savings by clicking the link in the description. Well, not savings. It's the right price. It's just they don't upcharge you. Okay, let's start off. Let's talk NBA to get it out of the way because we've got, of course, the king of hoops, Robert Ferringo here, and we want to talk tons of college hoops. And we got lots of early games too. Nick, why don't we 30 seconds each? Let's do that. 30 seconds each. NBA, what you like for tonight is free play.
Yeah, we got the Sacramento Kings and Golden State Warriors. The Warriors -7.5 on this one. I believe the Warriors have only lost, 2 games since they acquired Jimmy Butler in that trade. They're 9-1 in their last 10 games on a 5-game winning streak. Who in their right mind is going to take the Sacramento Kings wrong? I think the Kings cover here tonight. They're on a 2-game losing streak. They play the Golden State Warriors very well. They actually play better on the road than they do at home. I love the Sacramento Kings +7.5 tonight over the Golden State Warriors, Craig.
Yeah, as Nick should call them, Bulls West with Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan. And if you don't know, he's a Bulls fan, so it's like he knows about these guys. They actually have played better, too, Sacramento, since the trade. So interesting team to follow what they do in the offseason as well. All right, let's go to you, Griffin, and then we'll go to Robert. What do you like as a free play?
Yeah, Craig, I got one free play. The card wasn't great. Obviously, I had one play that I absolutely loved, unloaded the tank. I have my 8-unit. Let's jump onto this play. We've got Washington at Detroit. Detroit's laying 13.5 points, total sitting at 235.5. Last time these two teams played each other was their most recent matchup. Detroit lit them up by 20. This is a trap incentive. During that most recent matchup, Washington was on back-to-back games. They lit up the Lakers, actually, in an outright victory going into that matchup. I see a very similar outcome. Despite the fact that Washington did get a day of rest rolling into this game, I still don't think they're going to be able to compete with this Detroit Pistons team. They've been lighting it up all season long. I mean, this team has gotten peskier and peskier as the season has continuously extended. And I like the Detroit Pistons tonight to throttle over this Washington team. I'm laying the number here at 13.5 points in this one, Craig.
I mean, it's crazy. 6-25 is a straight-up record for the Wizards on the road. And you're like, okay, that means they're getting big numbers, which they are almost every game. They're probably good against the spread. Nope, 12-18-1 against the spread on the road. So it's like, and I'm guessing they're averaging about this number. 12 to 14 points is like almost what you get every night, if not more. So it's just been a really bad year, and that's an understatement. All right, Robert, what do you like as a free play?
I don't have one. I'm going to piggyback off Nick. Actually, he took mine. I like Sacramento. I really like that play as well. They haven't covered. The Warriors haven't covered in 3 straight games. The books are getting to that point where the Warriors are becoming like the public team again. So they're just starting to throw out an extra 2 or 3 points on all of their numbers. Kings have a revenge motivation. They got embarrassed by 24 points the last time that they played against them. And if you look at the Warriors, like, yeah, they've been great since Jimmy Butler has come to play. But how many of those games have really been against like playoff caliber team? They've been beating up on the nobodies. So let's see how they do against the top tier teams here coming down the stretch. So I'm with Nick. I would take the points on that one. That's actually a rated play for me as well.
I'd like the Lakers in the Bucks game. I think this is a tough spot for the Lakers. I don't know if they're going to rest Luka. He's questionable in this matchup. It's like, are you going to go all out? I don't think even if he plays, they're going to probably win this game. I'm going to take the Bucks minus the points here. I think this is one that might, like game time, all of a sudden it's 9 because Luka's out. Even if he plays, they didn't look good last time out. And I don't know. The Lakers have some wiggle room. If you look at where they are in the standings, it's like they don't have to go all in because they're going to end up, unless they really fall off, they're going to end up with a top 4 seed, which I feel like is a bonus for them. So a small play on the Bucks minus the 6.5. All right, now what everybody's here for, let's talk college hoops, and let's start it off with Robert. Robert, this is a day, I always say this is danger day for college tournaments because this is when the rubber meets the road. The first couple of days we've had to play, let's be honest, lower teams in the conference. Now we start to see the best teams play today and tomorrow. What do you like today?
Really interesting dynamic with some of these games. You're seeing it in the Duke game, but not in the Akron and the St. John's games. Is that I don't understand why some of these conference tournaments make their number 1 seed play that noon game. To me, that is a huge disadvantage. Like if St. John's was playing at Madison Square Garden tonight at 9:00, completely different energy level than if they have to play early. And again, we're seeing it with Duke. They're 22-point favorites in this game against Georgia Tech. They were down 12 early. They're down 6, I believe it is, going into the half. So sometimes it cuts that way against the Blue Devils. Sometimes, it goes like Akron, who got off to a little bit of a slow start, but they ended up winning by 30. I'm going to take Arizona as my first play. Kansas were lucky to escape Central Florida last night. I don't know what it is with this Kansas team, but there's just no chemistry between these guys. And we have seen this crop up a lot over the last few weeks. Teams meet in the final game of the regular season, and then they have to play each other again in the conference tournament just like 4 or 5 days later. That is always a benefit to the team that most recently lost. We talk about revenge motivations a lot in sports. If you lose to a team on Saturday and then you play them again on Tuesday, that loss is really fresh. Okay, you know what they're going to do. You know what you did wrong. So I feel like you're going to be able to make some adjustments. So Arizona had Kansas on the ropes in that game last Saturday. Kansas, Nick smiling because that was his game of the year. I
was sweating for a little bit.
First 32 minutes. Like I wasn't sure how that one was going to go. So it's definitely a pro Kansas crowd where this tournament is, but it's still not the same as playing in the fog. I think Arizona gets them the second time. The fact that Arizona is the small favorite in this rematch is also kind of telling. So I'll lay the 2 points and let's get Kansas out of here.
Well, look, I think we had 2 other instances. I think they both were in the Big 12, right? Colorado got throttled by TCU. They played. Colorado won that one.
And beat them.
And the other one was, maybe it wasn't that conference.
No, there was another one. Was it Butler, maybe?
Cincinnati, Oklahoma State.
There you go. Yep, that's it.
Cincinnati came back and won easy. So we've seen it kind of go both ways, but those were actually blowouts. Like both of those were blowouts. This was actually a close game. Nick escaped with the skin of his teeth. It counts either way. Our accounting.
The boys were wearing red.
Baby, cash it.
Kansas was wearing red senior night. They do not lose in those jerseys. I'm telling you, it's a tradition there in Lawrence, Kansas. They got the job done. That's all that matters.
What do you think, Robert? The one thing I actually had Arizona. I gave it out on the free 3 pick video I do every night last night. But the one thing I said that didn't make it a premium play for me was, this is basically a home game for Kansas. They dominate. It'll be 50% fans rooting for Kansas today. Is that have any bearing here for you?
No, because of how poorly they played last night with that huge home crowd advantage, rest advantage. There's just something wrong with this team. This just isn't a vintage Kansas team. Again, right now, one of the most important things, March is about momentum, right? Momentum. it's about how a team looks. You really have to be watching these games at this point of the year to see how teams are playing. A team may win by 8 points, but that's because the other team was just tripping over their you-know-whats, or threw up on themselves, or just were playing badly. Like the Oklahoma-Georgia game last night was a perfect example. I'm on Oklahoma tonight because Oklahoma looked good last night. Georgia has been playing fantastic. Georgia played great. That was a high-level game back and forth today. So now I have that team that I think is playing well, getting points again, versus Kansas, who didn't look good. So right now it's more about feel than it is about trends and stats and stuff like that. Watch the teams, see how they're playing, and then make your plays off that.
I actually had Georgia last night, so I was on the wrong side, but I actually like that because Georgia now is going to get a little rest. Probably won't, a lot of people won't be on them. I mean, let's remember, they beat Florida at Florida. So, if they would have won a couple games in the tournament.
That was at home, but they still beat Florida. That's no joke.
Think about that. That's one of the better wins in college basketball, especially in SEC, which there's been tons of them this year. So now you get a team that's probably going to be undervalued come the NCAA tournament, which I'm always looking
I was thinking the exact same thing, that they will be one of the teams I'll be looking for my potential NCAA tournament game of the year for that exact reason. And we've talked about them the last couple of weeks where I'm just like, look, it's not just that they beat Florida. It's not just that they beat Texas. It's watching them play. They're playing really well. And I felt the same way about that. Oklahoma they just made a lot of shots. Jeremy Fears is no joke. Like that guy, or Jeremiah Fields, I think it is, the freshman for Oklahoma. He is absolutely legit. And he was going off last night, and there was just nothing Georgia could do.
I liked last night that he didn't just look for his own shot, though. He was getting other people involved. He took the shots when he should have. And early in the year, he was kind of forcing things, and that's when they really struggled. Porter did a great job. If you watch that game, at that timeout he called, they were down, I think, 5 or 6. And he was like, dude, we got to run them off the three-point line. They did that. After that, they went on what was 12-0 run or 11-0 run, and that was pretty much the game. So great. I actually do like them tonight as well. Nick, what do you like as a free play here today?
Yeah, I actually loved Robert's play. The Arizona, I think it's a revenge spot on Kansas. Doesn't matter where they're playing. I think they get them this time. But let's look at the Big Ten with Northwestern and Wisconsin. Wisconsin's laying a number here against Northwestern, -8.5 in this one. Northwestern just played yesterday, and they beat down Minnesota. I love Northwestern in this spot. I think they play great defense, and their seniors on this team is going to get it done. I think they maybe upset. I would sprinkle a little on the money line, but I like them covering this game +8.5 against Wisconsin. Everybody in the public in the right mind is going to be on Wisconsin tonight. I'm going the other way with Northwestern +8.5, Craig.
Yeah, it was earlier. They played in February, 75-69 win at Northwestern. The line was 4.5, so they did cover Wisconsin. But that was a pretty close game. I remember watching some of that game, and I was thinking, I've said it earlier on the show. I think Coach Collins is just I don't understand how somebody's not recruited. If you can win at Northwestern, you can win anywhere. And I can't believe somebody hasn't scooped him up, but he's done a great job. I think that's a good pick tonight. Underdogs, these are when everybody starts playing the favorites, because guess what happens? Everybody and their brother doesn't play college basketball until this week and next week. And they're like, oh, who's the best team? Who's the ranked team? And that's who they play. So you're going to get I wish Raphael was on here because he could probably tell us. You might be able to tell us, Robert. Don't you think this line is 1 point too high? I thought it was 1 point too high, which is kind of common.
Not really, no. And I'm actually going to disagree with you guys a little bit. Wisconsin did not play well down the stretch, but they were also missing Max Klesmet, who doesn't put up big numbers, but if you watch them play, he takes a lot of pressure off John Tanji with the way he brings the ball up and distributes. They basically have been playing without their point guard in recent weeks. And the reason that I like Wisconsin in this matchup, not only because they didn't play very well down the stretch. I mean, look, they're laying 8.5. Purdue's laying 10.5, something like that. Purdue and Wisconsin, kind of similar teams. Northwestern's not healthy right now. They're down 2 starters. They lost Brooke Bardenheiser a few weeks ago, so they've been playing without Jalen Loach. So I think we are actually getting value here with Wisconsin, because Wisconsin, when they win, they score 90-something points. Their offense this year has been exceptional. So I feel like if they win this game, it's going to be because they're in the high 80s. I just don't think that Northwestern can play in that neighborhood. They really outplayed Minnesota last night, but Minnesota's a really bad team. I just don't know. And I want to get all of your guys' opinion on this. Maybe start with Craig and then see what Griffin, and then next. How do you guys handicap the teams that played one game now going up against a team playing their first game in the tournament, okay? Because that's what this situation is.
Yep.
I don't feel like there's one right or wrong effort, but how do you guys specifically handle that? Do you think it's an advantage for the team that has one game, one win under their belt? Do you think it's an advantage to have rest, like that Purdue game? USC played double overtime last night. So maybe Craig with you, and then I'm just interested in what you guys think about this.
I try, I coached AAU basketball the last 4 of the last 5 years, and we play 5 games in a day sometimes. So, and these guys are all big-time AAU recruits. They're used to playing back-to-back games. I know you don't do it once you get into college, but to me, I think there's an overemphasis on, this team got rest. I actually think it gets rust. Like teams because they're used to playing every 3 or 4 days. They have a schedule. You play a game, a little light day, then you have a hard practice, then a light practice, travel, play. It's like all of a sudden now you have an extra 2 days off. I actually think it's sometimes a negative, especially for like the number 1 and 2 seeds when they get like double buys and they don't play till Friday and they didn't play on Saturday, so it's like a week off. So I'm usually trying to play the underdog, and that means that's usually the team that played yesterday, or sometimes 2 games. What do you think?
I'm the same way, Craig, and I'm actually going to be counterpunching the free play that I'm about to give out. But I like teams that have already played back-to-backs basically going into it because they already know the environment. They already know the energy that they're going to be getting into dealing with. So I like that factor that they've already been in this situation. And just like you said, teams that aren't playing off back-to-back games, there's rust there. They haven't been in this environment yet. Obviously, most of these games, all of them are going to be at neutral sites. So they don't know what they're expecting when it comes to the crowd, the fans, how it's going to go, who's going to be on their side. So I like playing teams that are on back-to-back games as well over here, Robert.
Like, didn't we have Delaware? Wasn't it Delaware that played 5 games in 5 days?
Yes.
In their tournament?
Yeah, they made it to the finals and then lost in the finals. Yeah, they had a losing record coming into that. NC State last year winning 5 games in 5 days, and then they went to the Final Four. So
and then there could be I think North Carolina could be the NC State of last year. We'll see. They got to get by today. I think today's like a really tough one because they got a lot of pressure on them. It's like they have to win today and probably tomorrow. I don't know. Maybe
as does Wake, though. That's the thing. Like Wake is in the exact same situation as North Carolina, where they're still trying to play their way, and they both know that the loser of that game is going to the NIT. So,
and not even as a 1 seed in NIT, they're going to be a number 2 seed in NIT.
Right. What do you think, Nick? Do you agree?
I agree with both. It's definitely a confidence booster for Northwestern. They have a routine, especially in the morning. They're probably getting breakfast. They've already been there. They've done that. They're shoot around. They know what to expect, what time to wake up. So their preparation before the game, they've already did it yesterday. Nothing's going to change here today. While Wisconsin, on the other hand, they haven't. They didn't get on the bus. They haven't had breakfast or watched film yet. So that plays a big factor coming into this game. Northwestern knows their routine. They're going to come into the gym, do their shoot around and get right at it. And they have all the confidence in the world because you just beat a team yesterday and you win in advance here. Wisconsin hasn't beat anybody in this tournament. So again, they haven't been here just yet. I think it leans towards the Northwestern side in people that have already played back-to-back games. I love that momentum, especially from just an athlete and being competitive. You know what to expect when you wake up. And it goes from there.
Back at Virginia Tech playing baseball right now, guys.
You see it. Yeah, you see the eyes going.
Don't you think it has the edge on the teams that play later? I always like the teams that play later because then they're going to play later the next day. I always think the early ones a little, because it's like, you got to get up at early. You got to get up at 7, 8 o'clock. Now, granted, they got back and got some physical therapy and stuff, the ice down and everything. But I always like the teams that play a little later, that play the day before. If I have my druthers, obviously we can't choose what they play.
Again, that cuts both ways because, like I said, like when that number 1 seed is all the things that you guys have said, I agree with, except for Northwestern. I think they got bombed today. But everything else about the handicap in this is right. But again, a team that's played a game and already won, we agree has a little bit of advantage. I think it's hard for those 1 seeds to play that noon game and that 1 game. Because like you said, like you really got to self-motivate there. And you're going into those games usually as like a double-digit favorite, big favorite against a team that you know that you're probably going to beat. So that's where coaching really matters. And it's like, I don't even care about the team. How much do I trust this coach to have his team ready for that spot? So these are all the things that you got to consider in a really unique time of the year.
Interesting, the Big East. They had, obviously the coaches voted on this, and they wanted the seeds wanted the early game, so they had more rest because on the last day it's late, so they kind of like have an extra half a day rest when it kind of comes to it. But today you get UConn, which of course is the other huge draw in the Big East for they're going to have a ridiculous crowd there, so that's an interesting game. Nick, why don't you Griffin, why don't you tell us what you like for a free pick here?
Yeah, Craig, let's go to USC versus Purdue. Purdue's laying 10.5 points, total sitting at 148.5. And this is my counterpunch. I mean, it's Purdue's time to shine. They're coming off a pissed off loss in the most recent game against Illinois. It's time for them to turn it on. It's March. We have a neutral site in play. USC, they're on back-to-back games, but they were losing the entire game last night to the Rutgers, ended up flying in the second half. That game went into double OT. So this is a factor where you can look at this game and say, all right, well, we can expect definitely some exhaustion out of USC in this matchup. On the other hand, Purdue, they fly during March. We always see it every single year. And I believe tonight they're going to absolutely roll over this USC team in tonight's matchup. And I'm laying the 10.5 points here tonight, Craig.
Robert, are you a Musselman guy? I thought he did an okay job at
Nevada?
Arkansas. And Nevada. Done a better job at Nevada.
Braden Smith from the perimeter player prop over.
Like, I kind of wonder, like,
player of the year in the Big Ten.
Yeah, and he's played there only 3 years. Someone said, his juniors. And I was like, no, that dude's a senior. He's only a junior, and the way his size and everything, I'm pretty sure he's coming back as a senior year. So we're going to get to see him again. What a year Purdue's had. I mean, like, everybody thought this team was going to take a nosedive after losing Zach Edey and the run they had to the championship game last year. So good year. This one worries me because either USC is going to get absolutely hammered or USC is going to play with, like, nothing to lose and goes out there and, like, has a shot to win the game.
I'm with Griffin, though. Like, if you watch that game last night, they absolutely should not have won that game. Like, I can't believe Rutgers let it get to overtime. They had so many chances to ice that game in the last 90 seconds. Missing free throws, right. And then just letting them get to the basket, letting Desmond Claude get to the basket to get free 2 points pretty much every time. So, and they just had so many chances to win it at the end of regulation, at the end of the first overtime. They got a good shot, and the guy, I think, airballed it. Like, USC should not still be playing. So I kind of agree with you, Griffin. The thing with Purdue is, as always, can they play as well on the road and at neutral sites as we see them play at home? At home, they absolutely bum rush people.
Is this on Indianapolis? Indianapolis, right?
It's in Indy. Yep.
So this is basically a home
game right away. And USC, they're in their second consecutive game in the Midwest again. It's kind of one of those situations again.
Yeah, it's going to be 10-1 fans. Like Purdue and Indiana, of course, this is like an hour or so from each of them. This is going to be a big Purdue crowd here tonight, so that should.
By the way, here comes Duke. Duke is up 7 in the second half now. Again, they were down 12 early, laying 22, down 6 at the half. Now they're up 7 with a lot of time left. They at 15 minutes left wouldn't stun me if they managed to cover this number.
Now Indiana's flying. Now Indiana's 2 points down. They were just getting killed.
Well, interesting thing about Indiana, if we go back really quick too, something to consider, even if you miss some opportunities this year, to keep in mind for next year. Yesterday, I bet against Georgia. I bet against Vanderbilt. At the last second, I didn't pull the trigger on Oregon against Indiana. These teams that are in must-win situations, you got to bet against them. You have to. The books know the teams that have to win because they're NCAA tournament. This is true in all sports. Bad teams put themselves in must-win situations. If you're a good team, you're not in desperation mode where you have to beat some schlubby team because you're a good team and you took care of business. Bad, inconsistent, shady, shaky teams put themselves in must-win situations, and you have to bet against teams like that. All the pressure is on them, and you're usually getting points the other way.
So big news there. Cooper Flagg exits with an ankle injury, so hopefully he'll be okay. Maybe this means they, if it's serious, maybe they rest him in the next game and save him for the NCAA tournament. I got a little free play just to round us out. Iowa, Illinois. I love the way Iowa played yesterday. Like, they really played like I thought they'd play all year long. They actually focused on defense. Maybe it's like when the end is near, it's like, hey, we're going to go home. This is the end of our year. Obviously, they probably end up with the NIT, but like, I like the way they played. I think they play free again tonight. This is an Illinois team that's going to win, but I just don't know. I'm not an Underwood guy. That's just part of it. I try to find ways to bet against him, and I think 11 points I thought was crazy. I really thought it should have been like 8.5 to 9.5, and I still liked Iowa. So anytime you're getting extra, I'm taking Iowa here. I think they have a shot to keep this relatively close, like 2, 3, 4, 5 points, easy cover. I got one question for you, Robert. You see these what I call the non-power conferences, and the smart ones played last week. You know what I mean? Like they played last week or early this week, so you can get your time on ESPN, and so your championship game at least. Now we see some of like the Mountain West where they do get some of time now, and they get more now than they would have if the Pac-12 was going, because those Pac-12 teams are now in the Midwest and East playing. So you get the night games. Interesting game. I just did a free pick. I'm getting ready to load it up. What do you think this UNLV team? They kind of underperformed all year long. Coach kind of on the hot seat, facing a good Utah State team. But of course, they're playing in Vegas.
Right.
What do you think of this matchup?
You can't undervalue the home field advantage, the home court advantage. We've seen UNLV do this before. They beat them, and they beat them at home. And when they lost to Utah State, which that is an extraordinarily difficult place to get, all the places in the Mountain West are tough for road teams, right? Like home teams clean up in the Mountain West. They only lost by 5 in that game. So they split in the regular season, 2 close games, kind of no reason for there not to be a close game. And this is going to test our theory that we talked about, right? Like UNLV got their win yesterday. They didn't play well, but you got to kind of ignore that. Like anybody that's tracked Mountain West basketball, like Air Force just always kind of gives UNLV trouble. Right? Like Air Force probably averages 2 Mountain West wins a year for the last 10 years. One of them is UNLV, that they just beat them as a double-digit underdog. So it wasn't a huge surprise for me that like they kind of hung around in that game. But yeah, UNLV already has that win under their belt. They're playing at home. They're catching a lot of points. They're facing a team that they played tough and already proved that they can beat once this year. So I think the value here is with UNLV. I'm really interested in that San Diego State, Boise State game. I think that is going to be a fantastic game because Boise State, a lot of seniors, a lot of offensive talent, a lot of guys that have played and won in big games over the last few years, NCAA tournament games. They lost to San Diego State both times they faced them in the regular season. Is San Diego State just that much better than them? Are they going to beat, they always say it's tough to beat a good team 3 times, right? Is San Diego State going to beat them for a 3rd time? And San Diego State in the Mountain West tournament is like a team that you just don't bet against. So I don't know. Big game, great game, afternoon game. That wasn't a
blowout last time they played. They faced off. It was a blowout last in the second
San Diego.
Game. So it's like there's a huge revenge spot, and the line came out at 1. I was like, whoa! I thought San Diego State would be 3. So
Me too. I thought that would be a little closer. I was actually thinking like 4, 4.5, because again, they've been so good in this tournament. And they already beat them twice this year. I was surprised at how short that number was also. I didn't use it as a play, but like I said, it's one I'm going to watch. And it's one of those things like there's several matchups. Like I forget who UCLA plays tomorrow. Like, they probably play Wisconsin, I think it is. The winner of the Wisconsin-Northwestern game next. Sorry. But it's like the winner of that game, I'm going to take against Michigan State kind of blindly. The winner of this Boise State-San Diego State game, I'm going to take in the next game. Like some of these quarterfinal matchups or even semifinals where you have 2 really good teams, I'm like, that's a battle. Whoever wins that battle won because they're playing really well and they earned it. I'm taking them the next day, no matter who it is. And I love when I can get those teams catching points.
Guys, this is the get out game too, 11:30. So like it's always like usually I'm looking for underdogs on the get out game, underdogs and unders, because everybody in the public is betting favorites and overs on the late game. We talked about this yesterday. So this is a dangerous game because obviously at one point this is just basically a money line play. So be careful on this one. The Boise State game, by the way, it's like, was it? I think it was the Boise State game that I was looking at. Like Boise's a bubble, obviously. They're like last team in, last team out, depending on who you listen to. So it's that theory as well that like teams that must win. San Diego State's in. So is it like the must-win team? Is that maybe why they're getting the extra points? Because they're definitely.
I have no idea why they're favored in this game. Frankly, I have no idea. I thought San
that's
Diego
the only thing I could get.
I thought they'd be a favorite. I thought they'd be like a 3-point favorite. That's where it'd start, and that'd be bet up. And Boise State is a 2-point favorite. So that right there is normally when I see a line that's so crazy, I'm like, okay, I'm going to bet that game. I was like, no way. I want nothing to do with that. I'm just going to sit back and watch.
Real quick, Nick or Griffin, do you have an opinion on this Villanova-UConn game? Because I actually thought, I stayed away because I just was back and forth. Villanova's, they're experienced. So is UConn. UConn, they're so good at the Garden. Do you guys like this? It's UConn minus, let me get that current number.
6.5.
Should be 6.5, yeah.
And 134.5. Anything you like here, Nick or Griffin?
Yeah, I have a take on this one. I'm also counterpunching Robert's question earlier again because Villanova's on back-to-backs. But on this circumstance, it's different because they played Seton Hall. Seton Hall was winless on the road all season long. I believe they had 7 wins on the entire season. Absolute atrocious season for this team. Back-to-back games. Villanova absolutely throttled them. Now they have to deal with the UConn team who's currently 79th in the nation across offensive points per game and 34th from the field. They're also carrying loads of momentum. They've won 4 consecutive matchups. Villanova is just atrocious on the defensive side. They looked great yesterday because they played Seton Hall. Now you got to deal with UConn, who's been here. They thrive in March as well. I think UConn's going to absolutely bulldoze them in tonight's matchup, and I'm laying the 6.5 points in this one, Craig.
Robert, they won the last 2 years, Big East tournaments, right?
No. Well, I think Marquette won it 2 years ago.
So just
I think Connecticut won it last year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of agree with Griffin. I actually released a 1-unit play on Nova, but I don't disagree with what you're saying in that I think that this is either going to be a 1-possession game that comes down to the final shot, or Connecticut's going to run them out of the gym, or it's going to be an 18-point. They're going to be up 11 at the half. They're going to be up 18, 19 points at some point in the second half. Villanova might make a little run to cut it to 9, but Connecticut's just going to kind of like Big Brother with their hand on the little brother's head while the little brother's. It's either going to be that game or it's going to be 53-51 with 40 seconds left, and you're going to be glad you have those points. So I don't think this one's going to be close to the number. I think either you're going to feel real comfortable about having those points in the game that Villanova might pull the upset, or Connecticut's just going to freight train them.
I have a UConn future to win it all this year, and I was hoping to be able to hedge. They make it to the Sweet 16. It was when they were struggling there. I don't feel so good about it right now. I'm hoping to feel better, or maybe I don't. I don't know. I don't know what I'm hoping for, so I can hedge at a better price. But right now, it's just not been, obviously they've lost a lot the last 2 years. You're watching the NBA, Castle and all these guys that are playing the NBA. So it's not like they're losing lottery picks. And I think they have a couple on their team, but it's they just haven't quite put it all together. But Danny Hurley does have a magic come tournament time. He just kind of pulls the right strings lately.
Yes and no. He won back-to-back championships. That's epic, legendary stuff. That's why that only happens once every 20 years. Or so, right? But a lot of times teams that win the national championship, they're among the favorites the next year. They don't even make it back to the Final Four. A lot of them don't even make it past the Sweet 16. There's just a reason for that. March is just such a grinder. Conference tournaments take so much out of you to win them and to play in them, which some people talk about, they've talked about it with Auburn, right, in the SEC. Would they be better off losing that early in the SEC tournament so they can rest and make a run at a national championship? Well, no, they want to win an SEC championship. That takes a lot out of you. Then the tournament is just such a crapshoot that no, I will be surprised if Connecticut is still alive after the opening weekend.
Yeah,
I'm in agreement.
Let's just say I wish I could hedge out now. I wish it was sometimes you're $2.50. 20 cents on the dollar. I couldn't get that. But if I'm hoping they maybe win one, I can get even money because I just don't feel good about this team. Now, it's one of those teams they could change my mind this weekend though. They could win. Now, the Big East isn't what it was, but
once I seen St. John's bulldoze UConn, that was it for me with them. Yeah. But the most recent matchup, that was it for me. I was like, okay, they're not going anywhere.
St. John's is, it's like a bullfight. You're in a bull ring, you're jumping out of the way because these dudes are just grown men that they put their hands on you, you move. Don't forget.
Hang in there, Butler. Hang in there.
/ free 60 $60. Nick, before we get out of here, let's get an NHL play for you. So for the people that were sticking around for the NHL, give me a free NHL play on the way out the door here.
Let's go. We got to get a winner here. Past couple of days, we dropped one. So let's look at the Florida Panthers minus 145, Toronto Maple Leafs. This is a divisional matchup here in the Atlantic. The Panthers, they're in first. The Toronto Maple Leafs right behind them. But the Toronto Maple Leafs in divisional opponents, they got the upper hand here. They are 12-5, while the Panthers are just 8-6 here. The Panthers, they just lost to the Boston Bruins there. Brad Marchand, too. He went over to the Panthers in that trade. He's still injured here. Bob Roski will be back into the net. I like these Florida Panthers here on the road. Lay the minus 145 to get the job done over Toronto tonight, Craig.
All right. One other, I can't let you because people messaged me yesterday and said what we should do. And I said I was going to ask you, so I'm going to. Vegas at Columbus tonight. Vegas has dropped 2 in a row. It's only plus 160 on Columbus tonight. I told them over. I kind of like the over a little bit in this matchup because Columbus could score. I think Vegas is due for a big one. Any chance they lose 3 in a row?
Absolutely. Vegas just hasn't been consistent on the road. All the values in the Columbus Blue Jackets here. I would sprinkle a little pizza money. I love the Blue Jackets tonight. They've been scoring goals.
There you go. You guys heard it. I said I would ask. All right. So make sure if you haven't done so, use that free $60 account, docsports.com/free60. This is the time of year to get in. So you can test us out. So that way you know who to buy for March Madness next week.
Get that 8-unit game of the year, Griffin.
We have an 8-unit NBA Griffin. We have an 8-unit
college basketball, Strike Point Sports.
Strike Points. So we
your
have
7-unit college basketball, my 7-unit college basketball. So if I get the matchup I want tomorrow, I might have an 8-unit play in college basketball as well. So
I was thinking there's a matchup I want to see in the SEC this weekend. If it comes, it will be my game of the year because I just have a really strong opinion on it. But it's like, you got to get all the stars got to align because they got to win 2 games to get there. So it's one's got to win 1 and the other one's got to win 2. So it's like, that's the time of year. It's hard. It's like a lot of times we're predicting what we like for the weekend. We know who's playing because we have the schedule. When you're tournaments, it's a lot more difficult because more things have to happen for you to get that play you really like. So don't forget, though, if you haven't done so, make sure you check us out. Our Premium Plus, $49.99. We'll get you the Premium Plus. You'll get the Indian Cowboys plays on the first level, plus the Premium Plus, guys. That's about 180 plays a month. So that probably should cost you about $1,000 or more. You're getting it for $49.99 a month. Click the link in the description to get in. And if you haven't done so, make sure you put in the comments what you like. If you have questions or anything on games today, we do go in after the fact. We have people checking the comments, and they'll message us and say, hey, what is Griffin like? What is as long as it's not our top plays, of course. So make sure you do so. And we'll be back tomorrow, the same crew, 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. And I think we'll probably be more like 90% hoops tomorrow. So make sure you stay tuned. And I mean, college
boys are going to come in jacked up tomorrow, too. We got winners on deck tonight, boys.
Yeah.
Or Nick's mascara, or Griffin's mascara is going to be running.
I don't know if
tomorrow then.
I don't know if I want you guys to go to the game tonight or not. Like, because the last time
might buy Nick. No, we're not talking about it.
The last time you guys went on an 8-unit game of the year to see the Bulls play, it was a loser. So I don't think you guys should.
It was a 6-unit. It wasn't a game of the year. But it was a 6-unit. It was a 6-unit.
So you can go, is what you're saying, because 8 units are 0-0. So there's no bad juju there. All right, guys, have a great day. Thanks, everybody, for joining in. Thanks for everybody here on the panel. We'll see you again tomorrow. Good luck. Hope all your bets are winning ones.